Oh man, this has honestly been pretty interesting and almost downright hilarious. Well, almost. Okay, before I start, I'm not going to get into the whole sexism topic, that's for another video. Anyways, some of the comments I've been getting on my videos have been downright ignorant statements, and most of the time, I honestly can't help but laugh at them. It's really come down to a lot of people arguing with ghosts, though. A person will make a statement, and suddenly people will start accusing the said person of believing things that they probably don't believe in the first place. Take feminist frequency, for example. This is just a show that critiques the portrayal of women in popular culture. And when Anita Sarkeesian makes a statement that a lot of games keep on resorting to stereotypes on women, she gets a backlash from gamers and they start accusing her of condemning the entire gaming community. Yeah. A person who's honestly trying to have a serious talk about video games, and the only thing most of the gamers can say is, "Hey, stop trying to ruin our video games." I have to ask, why do we keep doing that? Well, I guess we can try to find out. One of the more valid points made in a not exactly valid comment said that I didn't refute anything HT Arcade said. Well, fair enough. But hold on, I need to make fun of everything he said in that comment first. You know absolutely nothing about what you're discussing. You come off as living in this insular bubble where status quo is God, and the obfuscation of reality is paramount lest that illusion be broken. You didn't refute anything said. All you did was act like your opinion was equivalent to fact. Unsurprisingly, you failed to not only refute his points, but failed to understand why they were made. But the first clue should have been that you go out to the escapist forums. 0 out of 10. Would not listen again. Yeah. Remember what I said about people making assumptions about others whenever they make a statement? I especially love how he said that I acted like my opinions were equivalent to facts, as if implying that I need to start off every opinion with an IMO. Yeah. Newsflash, people, you don't need to start off every opinion like that in order to make it an opinion. But the most hilarious part comes from the fact that I only see this kind of statement being made whenever they're talking to someone they disagree with. Man, how dare you think differently than me and act like you're right and I'm wrong. I felt like I didn't need to go through every one of his arguments, because I was just attacking his thesis by saying that having a female audience in a medium hasn't had negative effects before, so why would it now? I used movies as an example, and while I realize movies aren't the perfect example, they have matured a lot more than video games have. Well, anyways, let's get started with the arguments that HT Arcade makes. So, his entire thesis was that having a bigger female audience in the gaming industry would have a negative impact. Let's get through all of his reasons so I can refute them. Number 1. Females make up a majority of the people who play casual games. Well, so? Okay, this whole thing comes from the whole hardcore versus casual games, but I honestly feel like people are jumping into this argument without any clear definition of what hardcore and casual really mean. Well, here's what I think. Casual games are just games that don't take a whole lot of commitment. They're just games you can play on the side. You know, games you play while you're waiting in line, waiting for a file to download, or maybe even on a bus. They're just games to kill some time. Now, hardcore games are a bit trickier in defining, but I think it has a lot to do with people using the word hardcore to justify the games they like. No one is going to have a clear definition of what a hardcore game is, because we all look for different things in video games. But here are a couple of things that don't define a hardcore game. Challenge. That doesn't define it. Look at Angry Birds. Anybody can pick up that game and play it, but I don't think I've ever played a game that made me want to break something faster than Angry Birds. It's also not accessibility. Just because the Call of Duty games are accessible doesn't make them a casual game. Okay, fine, I have my own dislike for Call of Duty, but it's not because of how easy or accessible it is. Sure, Call of Duty can be played casually, but with a statement like that, almost any game can be played casually. Almost. Hell, even Team Fortress 2, a game that's not exactly forgiving to new players, has accessibility to it. It's free to play, it has a tutorial to make sure new people have some idea of what they're supposed to be doing, it's got training bots, but I couldn't really fathom anyone calling that game a casual game. Accessibility does not equal dumbed down, which ties into the next argument that HD Arcade makes, and how after some gadgets started to become more accessible, like smartphones, it attracted a higher female audience for gaming. Though, the thing is, this is less a female thing and more of a wider audience thing. Plus, these devices have been able to become more accessible while also becoming more complex. Seriously, would you honestly say that these aren't real phones now just because they're able to do more things? Were the older cell phones more hardcore because they had no screen, just buttons?
Man, these aren't real phones. You don't even have to remember anybody's number.
Okay, I highly doubt anyone actually thinks that way about phones. But this train of thought isn't too far off from video games, though. But that's the whole point. Accessibility doesn't equal a shallow and superficial experience. Remember how I said devices are becoming more accessible, but at the same time are able to be more complex as well? Well, the same thing can be said about video games. Number 2, females and males are different. Well, congratulations! You just discovered that people are different from each other. Well done! Number 3, hypoagency. Okay, this is the big one. Basically, this silly concept talks about how females will enter a male-dominated environment and instead of adapting or making their own place, they'll expect everything to change to fit her needs. Okay, let's say that this is a valid concept. I mean, it's not, but just for kicks, let's say the whole thing does have some merit. Well, the thing is, using it with video games basically assumes the fact that video games are pretty much a no girls allowed kind of medium. Of course, no one's going to directly say that. These guys don't mind it when women come along and play games they play, just as long as they don't have to change their behavior. Well, newsflash, this isn't a no girls allowed club. This isn't a medium specifically just for guys. Another big issue in using this concept is that it also assumes that most guys are like the sexist, homophobic douchebags you find on the gamer community. Take your average male and show him the video of Eris Bactonian being a misogynist jerk. You honestly think your average male is going to condone something like that? Even taking the concept of hypoagency into account, this isn't about changing the traditions of a male environment. This is about calling out people on being jerks. And it sickens me that you actually use that video in order to use it as an excuse to keep on acting like this.
Oh, Eris wasn't in the wrong. He was just acting like a male gamer. It was her who should be blamed for expecting people to not treat her so poorly.
It really all comes down to something we need to grow out of in the gaming culture. It's not just the whole issue with feminist frequency, it's a lot of things. When someone like the FilmCritHulk, who points out that there are some sexist things in Arkham City, while still going out of his way to say how good the game is, he gets an angry backlash from people who haven't even played the game yet. There are people who will complain when a game they really like gets an 8 out of 10 instead of a 9 out of 10. How dare you dislike this game? You might as well have given it an 8 out of 10. The really, really big problem that's going on here is, yeah, I'm going to say it. The problem here is that a lot of gamers are insecure when it comes to their hobby. Every criticism, everything pointed out that might be wrong, just gets a major backlash from gamers because all they can think of is, stop trying to ruin our video games. When I said to grow up in my last couple of videos, this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you honestly cannot deal with any of these criticisms that have nothing to do with trying to make games worse, there's a problem. Calling out people on their racist, sexist, and homophobic slurs isn't taking away the competition aspects of games. It's nothing to do with the games, but it has everything to do with the people playing the games. It's not okay to act this way, people.